All this, that we are beginning to discuss about this environmental pollution. Some of you asked, how pollution is different. Pollution and degradation are different. I mean, this is one distinction that we would like to make here. Degradation, you just write down. Degradation is about says in the life and life pattern of all living beings. Of all living beings. We generally call them as biota, that we know of biota. Degradation is, is a particular aspect where it is, biota is, it includes human, including human. Inherently, degradation accepts all entities as equal. All entities as equal. See, this is one very important distinction that we would make. On the other hand, the term pollution is more concerned about human welfare than that of other living beings, So the term degradation is more scientifically correct, whereas pollution is more politically correct. This is the distinction we make. So, here in says, is where it is about equity. This is very important about, this equal, the term all entities as equal, or you can say, equity. This term, if you further study in environmental science, environmental policies, environmental methods, this is particularly equity is a term which would be more and more relevant. In such cases, we would also begin to appreciate that all other entities, all other living entities have almost equal right to live and survive as that of humans. We are not that we are allowing or that we are protecting tigers. is not basically we are doing a favor to the tigers, but it's because we should believe that the tigers have equal right to live as that of a human. This is what is called equity. This equity is essential in environmental studies. Whatever we have to see, we would also try to appreciate that any other living beings have also the same right. This would altogether change your thinking. That would altogether change your thinking in understanding about environment and things altogether. So far, we have always considered that humans as being supreme. But when you are talking about environment in the large term, in this environmental pollution control or whatever, we should always try to keep in mind that humans are not all important, or humans are more or less equally important as that of any other beings, any other living entities or beings. So this is what is is very importantly about degradation and pollution, that that you made a distinction when we talk of the term pollution, what difference it makes. This is essentially the difference it makes. It has a very subtle difference, but very pointed difference. The pointed difference is that degradation is a term which we would generally it be a not focused more, but more appropriate. But wherever is pollution is a term which is particularly more focused on humans and relatively less to other living beings or any other natural objects, natural substances, natural resources that we can generally talk of. Now another very important thing is the environmental quality. This is a term, environmental quality. You just write down the term environmental quality refers to the quality of natural resources like air, water and soil fit for use for one species but essentially not for other species, For example, butterflies would love to survive on high mineral rich volcanic water to generate pigments in their wings, but a human being would find the water completely unfit for use. The mineral water from a water bottle that we are used of, may be completely unsuitable for consumption by birds. So quality refers to, so the term quality refers to the specified dosage of constituents, fit for consumption by a particular species. However, quality parameters define define the health standards related information. Quality parameters define the health standards related information required for the welfare of a certain species. More likely so for humans. 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 So say quality parameters is, as I was discussing, quality parameters essentially say, something like this. When I say that, it will have, this water should have this much of TDS. Say for human consumption, I say this much of TDS. What I refer as water quality, because this is the water which is fit for use by humans. It's not necessary to suggest that higher TDS water would be polluted water or would be degraded water. This water may be perfectly for use in another kind of living species which might find it for good use. So whenever where environmental quality is important, suppose when you are discussing, where you are thinking about say a particular community in mind, something like say if you are talking about bird community, you need not have to supply them say the treated water. You have to supply them a particular natural variety of water. That may not be the quality that would be useful for humans, but that may be perfectly useful for the birds. The birds may love it, although the fishes may love it. So when you are talking about fishes, we would have to talk about the quality of water, quality of air, or quality of soil that would be required for the sustenance of the fish population. When you are talking about environment quality of humans, we would be talking about the quality of air, quality of water, quality of soil that would help or that would be useful for the humans for their own consumption and their welfare. Okay. So this is what this is the definition, this is the change, these are the simple things, but these are essential things which are need to be differentiated, it has to be spelled out very clearly. So okay, now having gone from this, we should talk about little bit about this environmental movements throughout the world, a little bit of where would this would be, since I know that many of you would not have a course like this. So let us begin by seeing the environmental movement. Environmental movements. Surprisingly though, you would not believe that, that this today's environmental concerns, awareness and policies, understanding of impacts of different impacts are only 40 to 50 years old, though irreparable environmental damages have been taking place since the onset of industrial revolution in particular for more than 150 years now. For more than 150 years now. So you can see this, basically is the whole concern that we generally talk of. 40 to 50 years old is quite a nascent subject as such, though derived from basic sciences and engineering. This is not relatively very old subject, is only 40 to 50 years old, and essentially the subjects and the maturity of the subjects has only come about in last 20 years. It's about last 20-25 years that the maturity in the environmental concerns have come about. Before that, it was basically very sporadic activities at one place, some activism at one place, but it has actually, if you can see that, where there was a global awareness or there is a global requirement for a better environment, it has only taken place only last about 20 years time. So it's relatively new, and there are few marks that we would also beginning to discuss here. The first, and this the natural resource use paradigms. Natural resource use paradigms. Natural resource use paradigms. You can see things like this, here. We would say this says frontier economics. Frontier economics. The frontier economics, which is, is being propounded, is about frontier economics. If you just see till it was till about say till about 1900 till about 19, it cannot be said very specifically, say till about 1900s and say and little ahead, say about 1920. Yes, we generally just see that how the natural economics resources were being used just to see here is the first and foremost thing is to be see is frontier economics. What we used, what were the paradigms in the frontier economics? What was the basic idea? Idea was this: the natural resources are finite. Natural resources are finite. Natural resources are finite. They can be used as much as possible without limitation. So this can be that was the basic understanding, that the natural resources are finite, and this the earth is a perpetual sink. The earth is a perpetual sink. That means the earth can absorb whatever is given to it. The earth can absorb any substance or anything given to it by human interference. The natural resources are finite. The earth is a perpetual sink. The earth can absorb anything given to it by human interference. So hence, third and the very critical one is that the human being race is supreme. Human race is supreme. To be more specific on this, that this is basically a white supremacist thinking, that whatever the white people do, they are the best. They are the supreme of the world. They are the supreme. They are the supreme race. The human race is supreme. To specifically, if you say human race, at that point of time, about 1900, the basic voice that one can hear at that point of time was basically the voice of the white academics, white intelligentsia. So it's basically a white supremacist thinking that human race is supreme. See, these three things, this was the first thing. This was the basis of frontier economics. Frontier economics began to explain this by saying this is the natural resources, and the supporters of them were then Isaac Newton himself. Then Newton supported them. Then this Descartes was also a supporter of the movement there, and many other mathematicians, physicists they used to think that the frontier economics, believe in frontier economics. So here in this case, where you can see this human culture begin to change the environment irreversibly. This is still taking place. I would say it's a dominant social paradigm. It's basically many people used to believe. Now there are also many people who believe in frontier economics. In the sense that they believe that the having full dependence on growth, on physical growth, is basically supporting frontier economics. It's about basically supporting frontier economics. So this is the initial paradigm that we have discussed in frontier economics, and this the Roger Bacon, I think I was forgetting the name, Roger Bacon. So these are the scholars, the scientists, the philosophers who used to believe in frontier economics, and it still remain somewhere of 1920 we still could think of that the frontier economics being a very prominent major natural resource use paradigm. Having followed this at about the 1920s and onwards, we generally find a response to this frontier economics. What is said is as deep ecology. Deep ecology. This deep ecology is this deep ecology under this natural resource paradigms. This is deep ecology that we generally talk about. Deep ecology was a violent response to frontier economics. And it has the reverberations of it can be seen 1940s, 1950s, 50s like this. So about for say 1940 say 1960 you can write it. So about this time we just see a violent response to frontier economics, where it says that natural resources are finite. Natural resources are exhaustible. Nature is supreme. Nature is supreme, not humans. Every living entity, has equal right to survive, and flourish. And no development, a counter to frontier economics, no development at the cost of environment. No development at the cost of environment. And the public reactions were so huge that in many cases this could be many industrial sectors have to be closed because of this. There are many things that could be it was actually by this time about frontier economics, when it has matured, by that time a certain economy has generated. That means economy in the sense that unless you also suppose for India, say if we have to employ all our people, we have to use our natural resources, and only then we can provide them some kind of income, some kind of sustenance. So here the deep ecology was exactly countering that, in the sense that it was completely opposing the philosophies of frontier economics. So here in cases like this, we can see that we just generally a combined response of this frontier economics and deep ecology. We can find out a reform philosophy. Which is we generally find it in the manifestations like resource management, and environmental management and control. Reform philosophy. Under this reform philosophy, what we have done is, so the idea is here we will also develop development in conjunction with the keeping of the environment. So this is basically a compromise between frontier economics and deep ecology. This is basically a compromise between frontier economics and deep ecology, where you have made a compromise. But here also again one thing, the resource management, what it said is challenging reduction of pollution. The basically how it was met, how it was carried out, reduction of material, reduction of pollutants. So when the industries were asked to reduce pollution, what they did is they only reduced pollution. This is the initial response, reduction of pollutants, reduction of input, reduction of increase in efficiency, but the whole emphasis was on environmental control and remediation. So it's basically the control after the pollutant has been caused, it will be controlled, and remediation. The basic focus of these two aspects of reform philosophy was that to control and remediation, the control and remediation. What we see next is, from this, the reform philosophy, then it comes that this is basically all this is that all this deep frontier economics, deep ecology, and reform philosophy, this is all called the evolutionary track of environmental movement. So what we mean by saying is that this we can see particularly this reform environmental the deep ecology, and then deep ecology and this frontier economics together, combined together to form a compromise of this as this resource management, RM. This is all, as you can see, this is called evolution. This is evolved. First is deep ecology, first is frontier economics, 1, then 2, then 3. This combining this, this is how it has evolved. So this is known as evolutionary track of environmental movements. But after that, what we see is, and today's world, about in 1987, that the Brundtland report to OECD and to say OECD, World Bank, to UN, is that Brundtland report revolutionized a certain kind of thinking in environmental movements. Till that time, what we have seen is the concepts like sustainability brought in. This is called the revolutionary track of environmental movements. Brundtland report of which is, it defines sustainability, which begins to define the first work, begins to talk about sustainability, and the sustainability is defined by, on the line of this Brundtland report, as this: must use our natural resources, we must use our natural resources in a manner that the welfare and well-being that we enjoy today can also be enjoyed at least at similar level by the generations of the future, generations of the future. Must use our natural resources in a manner that the welfare and well-being that we enjoy today can be also enjoyed, at least at similar level by the generations of the future, or generations of tomorrow or future. Sometimes it was written tomorrow, as it can be directly in line with today, tomorrow, or our future. I mean, this is that the same, the very another succinct comment, that is, we do not own the planet. We have only borrowed it from our children. That's another very interesting, these two titles, that would be succinctly discussed about, we do not own the planet. We do not planet. We have only borrowed it from our children. So we have to give them back. So we have to give them back as we have taken from them. So this is the idea of sustainability. This particularly, this sustainability term is, there are few aspects. This is when it was in 1987. First this this sustainability was brought in. It was a term which was more philosophical in nature. Whether actually is basically whether this can be achieved, whether this can be actually practicable to say, and it is extremely difficult to work on a sustainability as such. How sustainability can be achieved without actually going for higher growth, higher material growth? This is a big question. So if we are using, say, energy at some level, how without reducing that energy level we can think of sustainability in the future? If we keep on increasing the use of natural resources like fuel at the same level and more in the future, how else we are going to conserve the fuel for the future? Is it possible? I mean, it is not possible in such cases. So in case there are certain things that has also taken place, though it is a term generally looks very philosophical on the surface, but there are efforts and there are number of very praiseworthy efforts that have been done to understand the sustainability and how this sustainability can be actually be worked upon, can be thought about. See, one big important thing is that the world is not going to change overnight by by a movement, environmental movement or things like that. The things that have been accumulating, that have changed the world throughout a period, such a long period, cannot be changed within few 100 years, or even in say even more than that, or even say the usual estimate that we make it 50 years or so. What is possible is certainly making a progress towards that line. Whether what the most important thing for most of us is whether we are doing things, more right things today than we used to do yesterday, or whether we are doing less wrong things than what we did yesterday. That is the basic question. If we are going to reduce that, if we are going to reduce in that manner, that is sufficient to say that we are going on the path of sustainability. It's a very strong, very applicable word nowadays in the world. You will find this word being used in various forms. The basic connotation is this: the word sustainability would mean that whatever we are being able to do today, whether we will be able to do it tomorrow. The same things is a big question, because in the situation that I have explained in the first class itself, that our natural resources are depleting at a very fast rate, and this is a fact that is generally, accepted by all kind of people all over the world. Every day it is being said, everything it is being told to somebody, but whether we are taking the right steps or not would actually depend much on these concepts, and this concept should lead to a better human behavior, a better functional use of the earth, the better functional use of our planet, and so that everybody can sustain, everybody can relatively live together. So this is the sustainability that basically there are, if you are an engineer, what sustainability would mean to is, is called the increasing end use efficiency, increasing substitution by material value products, substitution of substance, the same work, if that can be done by a material which uses less material, that substitution would help. So suddenly they use, you can think of a material substitution, say the increasing the resource reserve, increasing the resource reserve. When we are talking about, say, if we say that our reserve of petroleum is going high every day, becoming high every day, we would say that we are towards the path of sustainability. That means we are being able to maintain, or we are being we are in a position to increase the level of the natural resource. That is one very important thing about this, about environmental pollution. Then is this reduction of another very important thing about environmentalism is, and this particularly is that I have also said in the first class, it's increasing wealth, community being more important than individual. These are the aspects which leads to sustainability. This is what is, and finally another very important thing that is is coming out to in the physical sustainability aspects is whether we can maintain whether profit, people and planet can be whether profit, people and planet that is Earth can be simultaneously maintained and enhanced whether profit, people and planet can be simultaneously maintained and enhanced. This would remain the most important part. This would remain the most important part about sustainability. All right. So we'll stop here today because we'll go to the next topic. I mean any other thing that is we'll start with water pollutants first. Water, then we'll go to soil, then we'll go to air. So we'll start the water pollutants, typical water pollutants in the next class. And any questions so far? If you have found anything which is not clear to you. And okay, I mean read some books, read some papers also. That book of mine that I was telling about. You can think of this book. This is a book which you can use it as a reference. This particular book. There are many aspects of it which has been explained. What I have explained for first 2-3 chapters for 4-5 classes. Generally, I deal with this book. I'll go back to a standard environmental engineering textbook in the next class. Okay, right. I think with all this, you stop at today's class. So in the next class, we'll start by beginning water pollutants, right?